Let's go!
We're taking receipts, and we'll see you at the national championship.
LSU fans, are you kidding me? Brian Kelly talked a big game in the post-game press conference, and the funny thing is, our comment section is going to mostly be nothing about this game in particular, but the future of this team. So we'll talk all about that today. And most importantly for your boy, I got to go. This was the only home game I was able to attend this year. And boy, was it a good one. The most complete performance of the year, as we start off with the C.J. Daniels screen to the right. 2nd and 7, and this is going to be a big part of the LSU offense moving forward, right? Because Caden Durham is going to be back next season. Garrett Nussmeier steps up, hits his check down right here to Caden, and man, throwing the football to him out of the backfield, in particular early in games, South Alabama, obviously the A&M game as well, the Arkansas game, getting the football in his hands early and often has been a very good proposition for LSU, and he makes a guy miss, and he's able to pick up a first. Man, huge game. Huge game for Kamarion Pimpton. I mean, he had already kind of been phased out of this offense, but Garrett full field read, could he have actually thrown this football right here to Caden? Sure, but we don't see where this corner is, and actually there's a linebacker right here. So Garrett does a good job not throwing it there. Good job not throwing this football to Kyron and stepping up into the pocket, trusting a very good pocket to get this football to Kamarion Pimpton. And the star of this rep, honestly, is Will Campbell. I mean, this is ridiculous stuff. You'll see that Thomas actually gets leverage on him early in this rep, but the best thing about Will Campbell, it will always be his most redeeming trait. Going all the way back to his freshman season, he does a good job staying in a rep. Like, if he's getting pushed back, he is so good at resetting his feet and not giving up more bull rush than what you would think he would be giving up. So notice, this rep starts off with him sledding backwards, and watch him plant, stop, okay? It's so hard to do this, all right? So Garrett steps up into this little window right here and throws his football to Kamarion Pimpton. This catch was a lot tougher than, you would initially realize, because ball had to miss the umpire, and Garrett, of course, one of the best over-the-middle throwers in LSU history. Well, let's go to the first Garrett Nussmeier touchdown of the night, and this is such good offense from LSU all around. I mean, literally everybody did their job really well on this play, okay? So let's start with the protection. It is good, all right? They have 5 guys to guard 4 because we decided to keep a running back in to protect against the blitzes, and guess what? They're bringing a twist around, all right? So Denny Stutzman, arguably their best player, is coming around untouched. But Garrett sees that they're in man coverage, and we are running some whip routes. This is a really good call from Joe Sloan, because we don't just want to run everything deep when their feet are basically on the sticks. What happens here, though, is you'll see that this safety is responsible for the running back. He decides to not come through on a route, so they decide to double Aaron Anderson. Where this play actually was won was with Mason Taylor, all right? He runs a vertical, and we get a coverage bust over here, all right? So this DB thought Kyron Lacey was running an over, so he decides to run with Mason Taylor, and they're thinking that this DB is going to be picking up Kyron on the over, or like an in-breaker here. The issue is that's not what he's doing. He's whipping back this way, and that's where the coverage buzz actually happened. See, this DB runs to Mason Taylor, thinking that Kyron's running this way. This DB is running towards Mason Taylor as well, but instead it's just a whip, and this has been our most successful third down play. Now, is there some pressure given up right here from Paul Mabenga off the edge or in this 3-tech? Sure, there is, all right, but because we had a good man beater called right here, Garrett was able to just sink back and just buy enough time for Kyron on the whip, and it is a walk-in touchdown. And it's crazy because Bowman and the secondary, they're a really well-coached unit. They just give this up. I mean, it is a backbreaker. And that's the thing, Tiger Stadium. lit crowd. It's hard to get those communications, hostile environment, and even the best safeties make mistakes. Okay, and you could see it right here, okay? Bowman left, works back right. He's trying to jump this route to Mason Taylor. And ironically, this to Mason was also open. All right, you're never throwing that, though. You should be throwing this to Kyron all day, every day. And there he is. It's a touchdown. Bad coverage buzz, and it's a walk-in. Now, let's talk about special teams. This was a great special teams night for LSU outside of this rep. And what's funny here is there is a lot, and I mean a lot, you could take away from this one snap that LSU must be prepared for next year. Okay? Now, before we actually kick this football off, I want to show you one thing, okay? Caleb Jackson is playing. All right? He is still on the team. They're not resting him. They're not redshirting him or whatever. They're actively not playing him at running back and just keeping him as a specialist, which is crazy, right? It shows you how far he's fallen on the depth chart. Also, another thing about this kickoff is actually something that we discussed in our Tennessee and Vanderbilt film study on Power Hour SEC. So I highly recommend you go watch this because there's one thing LSU and Tennessee had in common going into this game tonight. They were by far the SEC's best teams when it comes to touchback percentage, meaning when their kickoff specialists kick the football off, it is a touchback almost every single time, okay? LSU, of course, had a slightly better touchback percentage. Shout out Aaron Burrell, who had a big knee brace on, by the way. But what changed? Why all of a sudden, when Aaron Burrell is blasting every kick out of the back of the end zone, why is it that he's not being able to do that here? Well, it's simple. It's called weather, all right? It's colder outside. And that's why, the Vanderbilt kick wasn't as far. The ball just doesn't travel as well in the cold. I don't know the physics behind it because normally you would like to think you would think it would be the opposite. Whatever the case may be, I know it's been explained to me your tires are lower and the ball is flatter. It's just not as clean of a hit. You're also not used to just punting in colder temperatures when you're kicking in warm temperatures throughout the course of the season. So why is this relevant? Why am I spending so much time on this? Well, this was a not bad kickoff return rep. You see, we're slowing everything down. Honestly, this is really well done. We get physical right here, and we get back on our feet. Who is that? It's kind of tough for me to see. And we have everything covered, all right? We need Deshaun Spears to just make this tackle. Can't do it. Caleb Jackson, also right here, potentially a chance to make this tackle. He can't do it, all right? So this is what happens when you're not used to guarding kickoffs. Then we have, I think that's Relaford right there. He whiffs. So we have 3 missed tackles, and then guess what? Why not add a fourth? That's Osbury, all right? So eventually we do get him brought down at the 30-yard line. But you see, when you're not used to covering kickoffs, and once again, LSU averages less than 1 kickoff return per game, you get sloppy tackling like that. Now, why is that relevant? Well, keep in mind that the SEC schedule next season is actually going to flip. So you play every team the same, all right? So the benefit this year of LSU having 2 home games to end the year is that's 2 less cold weather or frigid games that you could play, right? If you're playing the game in Baton Rouge, it's not going to be as cold as it would be if LSU had to play the game in Nashville, which we just mentioned. Obviously, Tennessee couldn't kick the ball out of the back of the end zone there. Or if you're playing this game in Oklahoma, all right? Don't know the weather in Norman yesterday, but Oklahoma kind of sort of close to Columbia, Missouri. And guess what? It was a snowstorm. And LSU has never really played in a snowstorm. So we need to be ready for that when the time comes, and we get to this first rep here. Devon Keys, 10 tackles, up and down night overall. You would like to see that as true freshman versus true freshman. You like that tackle to be made, but there you go, little check down on first. Let's skip ahead to the Garrett Nussmeier fumble because the LSU defense, for the most part, was really good. We'll talk more about them a little bit later. All right, so I've seen D.J. Chester get absolutely roasted for what actually happened here, and some of it is justified. So you see that Oklahoma overloaded the right side, and this honestly is just really good scouting, right? If DJ Chester struggles at center and Paul Mabenga is still very much a developmental project, you want to crowd this and really challenge him on 3rd and long, okay? The next thing, obviously, we've already burned 2 timeouts here, and this is just bad football in the long run, right? Whether Joe Sloan is back next season, it doesn't matter. Your head coach can control when the football gets snapped, right? You could tell the OC, hey, we've already burned 2 timeouts. Why are we, snapping the football with 5 seconds left to go on the play clock? Some of that's on us. Some of that's on the play calling. But you have these guys in stances a really long time. It's tough, right? And these defensive linemen, when you're snapping the football with less than 5 seconds, it allows you to get a little bit of a better jump, right? You know that there's not going to be any more checks or anything like that. So you'll see that this loop right up the middle, and it actually is just a twist, 30 is twisting around, and they're really just squeezing this in. All right, Will Campbell does the right thing here. Dominic Williams, I think a lot of you know who that is. He comes down and helps with this double, and DJ Chester's job is to just sit really heavy in this hole on 56. So you'll see it's really tight. I'll zoom it in. He does open up his hips pretty wide, okay? You notice his hip right here is just too perpendicular, right? That's more of what you want to see out of an offensive tackle. We don't want any type of A-gap pressure. And when you open up your hips this wide, now this is good if this was a run to the right side. We want to seal them like this. But this is a pass set, a longer developing pass play. We don't want this much pressure, obviously. All right? Then we get to here. Is this holding? They let rip moves go. But you'll see that 56 isn't really ripping with that left arm still. They'll let it go. Is this a tug? Yeah, I mean, on the back of the jersey, it looks like a clear tug right there. Either way, if you're Garrett, the way offense works is you're trusting these 3 guys along with a running back here to help pick everything up, especially with Miles Frazier coming over to help pick up this twist. That's really good stuff. And you notice every single assignment is picked up outside of one. Now, there's a lot that Garrett could do in this situation and get out of this. You can climb through here. If he climbs through here, he's probably scramble drilling. He's done a really good job of that. He had a big one to against Vanderbilt last week to Mason Taylor when he stepped up into this area. It's almost the exact area of the field, and he hit a deep ball to Mason. We want to step up into the pocket. We don't want to roll back this way. Now, I can also understand why Garrett wanted to try and step this way because it's trips left. His routes are all to the left, and LSU actually also had some routes to the right. So, I mean, that's not really a good excuse. Garrett needs to step up into this pocket. But what does he do? Well, he opens up this way, and yes, he does have 2-ish hands on the football right here. Nevertheless, he loses it, okay? Just because you have 2 hands on the football doesn't mean you're able to hold on to it. And this honestly isn't that physical of a strip, right? Like, there's a good strip. Like, Joe Burrow got stripped by the Steelers today, and he was getting ready to throw, and it got stripped. There's strips that make sense in theory. This is one that doesn't, okay? 7-0. Their offense isn't doing anything, all right? Now, here's the thing. If you're DJ Chester, you still have a chance to come in and save the day, right? If you can't make any blocks, at least give us some equity on a potential touchdown-saving tackle, and he trips, and he doesn't even touch him. If you touch him, you get a chance. Now, one final thing here. Aaron Anderson, look at this hustle. All right, I love to see that. If he would have, instead of going for the big hit, if he would have just stripped down, like right here, if this right arm chops down, this ball is loose right here. Instead, he knocks him into the end zone. It still was good hustle to get back into the play. But right there, it was just a calamity of errors. A lot of it's on Chester, but a lot of it is on Garrett Nussmeier. You just can't have that happen. Okay, so 3rd and 7. This is ridiculous stuff from Garrett. It really is. All right. What they're doing here is they're running a 3-person flood concept. So the tight end here, Mason Taylor's the deep part of this. Where the ball is probably trying to be thrown is Kyron Lacey on the deep over. But Oklahoma's been scouting LSU, right? They know that this is a ball that Garrett loves to throw. All right. So we're whipping Aaron Anderson here. That could have been thrown. But look, Garrett's doing a lot of processing. Our protection here is really good across the way. Miles Frazier had himself a good football game. And look, the ball could have been thrown to Kyron. He gets it down the field, though, to Mason. It's the safer throw as well. And you pick up the first. What a throw. What a catch. All right, so you want to know why Caleb Jackson doesn't play? It's because Josh Williams and Caden Durham are as solid of a 1-2 combo as any running backs in the SEC right now. I mean, 3 and Etienne at Georgia are really good players as well. I mean, there's so many guys you could point to. But that guy was in the hole and just still couldn't make that tackle on Josh. Now, this is not on Sloan. Obviously, it's not on anybody here except Will Campbell. It's 1,000% on Will. I know this made him sick that this even happened. But, Will brought this up in a press conference. Your margin of error as an offensive lineman is so much lower than as a defensive lineman. It's such an unfair imbalance. Will was talking about this, saying, if you give up a sack a day as an offensive lineman, you're never going to get drafted. If you have 1 sack per game, you're in the first round of the NFL draft. That philosophy just completely, honestly changed my way of offensive line play. This is one of the best players. All right, Thomas, he turns the corner, and Garrett, trusts Will on his blind side as he should, and he just got beat. I mean, it just happens, and Garrett gets hurt. Right? Thomas is really freaking good. Like, that's why we talked about him nonstop all last week. And Garrett's hurt. Now, this is where I'm going to defend Will. I understand Andrew Whitworth was great. I understand Saron Black, all those guys were great. I would have to go back and look at, obviously, that was a just picturesque rip move right there from Thomas. I would love, 5 to 10 years from now, to see where all these pass rushers that Will Campbell went up against, where they are in the NFL right now. Because it is a murderer's row. From the very first game that he played versus Jared Verse to, obviously, guys like Byron Young for the Rams, and then guys like Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and Thomas this year. And it's ridiculous, how difficult the assignments have been, and he's still been mostly dominant. So it goes to show you that if he's not here next year, this is going to happen more just by default, because how many left tackles are better than Will Campbell? I mean, you can make a case, Kelvin Banks and a few others, but it's just he's that guy. And, this play actually makes you appreciate him more. All righty, so A.J. Swan steps into the game. Once again, this Rickie Collins situation was so weird. He enters the transfer portal. I share everything that I know. Obviously I've not ever talked to Rickie, but I've gotten to know people around him. And look, it is the whole thing's just weird. So go listen to the podcast. It's part of our Patreon subscription. Get access to the Discord. Next person that signs up gets your first month free, and everybody that signs up gets a Joe Burrow card in the mail. All right, Braden Swinson, man, he has seen it all. They tried to run the shovel last week, and it got blown up, and bang. Nasty. All right, so Caden Durham breaks off a long one. I would be very cautious, wink, wink, nod, nod, of what you might read on the internet about Caden. I would be shocked if any of that were true, and it's not anything crazy, right? He's locked into LSU, all right? In the transfer portal era, could there be some crazy amount of money given out and you decide to go? Sure, right? But Caden is going to be at LSU next season, all right? I hope so. You never know. You honestly never know. The guy that makes this play, though, is another guy who might not be here next year, Mason Taylor. Once again, as a tight end, The fact that he plays every single snap is ridiculous, right? You see all the go balls and deep routes, clear outs. He blocks this in completely out of the club and takes him out of this B gap. And Caden does a good job reading this. And then after that, this is a very difficult block here on Danny Stutzman. So you get the double right here. Emory Jones does a good job sticking with it and just clearing 34 out this way. Look at this leverage right here from Mason Taylor. He's got to get this helmet on this shoulder right here and kick him out this way. Y'all, this is the consensus best linebacker in the SEC going into the year, and that was a critical block, right? You would not think Danny Stutzman would be getting turned to the inside like that and just turned around. I can't tell you how difficult that is. And now we get Caden Durham one-on-one versus a safety. We know he's going to win that battle every single time, and he picks up all these extra yards. And give Four a lot of credit for making the touchdown-saving tackle. And number 4, if you are interested, come play for us because we need safeties that could do just this, okay? That's one hell of a play. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's just a great tackle. All right, I'm going to give you a really good tip, all right? If you ever see a college football offense at any level have multiple receivers on the field with jersey numbers in the 80s. Okay, now notice I said wide receivers, a little bit different tight ends. Be cautious, and that's even the case with tight ends, right? I know Mason Taylor wears a traditional number in the 80s, but if there's 2 on the field, that means their skill guys aren't really all that good. 13 has been a good deep option. He caught the big pass for them to win the game versus Auburn. And what do? Well, you get some pre-snap motion to get their best receiver on Major Burns. Now, because this was such an easy little free release post, you don't need your protection to be absolutely perfect, but guess what? Here it was, okay? This honestly is a very creative way to run pass protection. All right, they slide everything here. We're trying to run twists. They have Sharp to tight end or fullback in that instance help seal right here. And look, we got 3 zone linebackers right here to account for Jackson Arnold and some potential leaks. So he's got all day to throw, and we don't want to be in this situation all too often. Nevertheless, all right, I cannot state this enough. I have covered Oklahoma all year long on Power Hour SEC. There's never been a wide receiver room more hurt than this room, okay? Their top 5 guys are all hurt. All of them, okay? It is so bizarre. Major Burns, you got to keep your feet, man. You just do, okay? It doesn't even look like he tripped. It's the ball tracking. He wasn't even pushed, really. He just fell down. And also, Jordan Gilbert. He could have come in and saved the day here. This also gets over the top of him. So if he catches and is able to keep his feet at all, he's running into the end zone for a tutty. This honestly has just been the case. It was a little bit of an out and up. But, guys are just going to run by Major Burns every single time. And if I'm Major Burns in this spot, I'm just pulling him down, right? 15 yards is a lot different than a potential touchdown. And if the throw was better, it would have been a touchdown, right? He had to fall down after the contact, first down. Now, on Power Hour SEC, we did a full breakdown of this run. And this is actually a Tennessee run that they took from the Tennessee versus Alabama game. And this run was actually what got them their first touchdown. So, trust me, if LSU was doing film study, and this is a newer running back, Xavier Robinson, he's a true freshman, they saw that this touchdown run was on film, and this is a very bizarre way to actually run it, all right? So you have to be prepared for it. Normally, when you are a defensive player, your job is to key the puller. So if it's a pull with the guard and the tackle, you've got to be heading down this way, especially if you're doing this into the field, right, the wide side of the field. The problem is LSU's defense was like, okay, last week on tape, they did this very thing, but they actually handed this football to the right for basically a walk-in touchdown. So notice what happens here. Whit Weeks actually runs to the right with the play-action fake, and Greg Penn actually goes with the pullers. So we should be in a good spot to make this play, right? No, because Greg Penn, not carrying out his assignment here, thought the ball was with the running back. Whit Weeks has the running back. We also have an end in the flat into the boundary. It's also more important, if this is being run into the boundary, that we keep balance to the field side because there's just more room over here. So you see, he's running with Robinson, and guess where Jackson Arnold is running? Right where Greg Penn was. Okay, he's had issues scanning before, and Devon Keys, well, this is just a rough spot to be in, okay? He decides to seal and get Jackson Arnold to cut to the inside. What you could do in this situation is act like you're contained, engaged. Don't just stick your head down. Once again, you're giving up a lot of weight. Keys is not the biggest guy. And then peek, and then immediately jut back this way, all right? And Arnold will likely cut back this way once he sees it, but at least it slows him down. We want, in the very least, one, to cut him to the inside, so that's good in theory. But number two, we want to slow down this sprint. So once he sees that this hole is open, we don't want him to be able to plant and just go at full speed. So we could have done better, but once again, he's given up so much weight. Another thing you could do, and this is, a little bit more sinister, is just come in here and just clean his legs out. Okay, force a pile. That's obviously not the best option for either party. But either way, we still can't stop zone read. We've just struggled to key it. It's very difficult to do. But, man, it's been a problem. Now we need Jordan Gilbert to make the touchdown saver, and he does. Okay, good stuff. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just make sure we stop him before the goal line. And you'll see it here, all right? This really is a creative play, all right? Last week versus Alabama, they scored a touchdown sweeping this to the right side. So Witt does his job. He's communicating. You can see he's telling Greg Penn, hey, you go to the pullers. I have the running back here, all right? So I'm going to go to the running backs, but Penn ran to the running back as well, all right? And you see it fold the camera as well. It's difficult. It is very, 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 very difficult. Okay, but Jackson Arnold, long run, and lucky enough we didn't let him score. We get to the play of the game. This is crazy to me, Oklahoma's game plan going into this. All right, now, once again, we talked about the cold weather, and Oklahoma's kicker had a decent touchback percentage. So he's at 66%. LSU is at 93% with Aaron Burrell. So that means out of every 15 kicks, LSU's kickoff unit has to defend roughly one or two. And for Oklahoma, out of every 15 kicks, their kickoff unit has to, cover about 5. So a low amount. The first thing that Oklahoma does wrong here is this is obviously a kickoff to the right. So they're bringing a lot of guys here to the left. And you can even see the design of this has a guy leaving this pocket of space right here to come pin Aaron Anderson to this side. Now, the first thing about this kickoff return is we get lucky that Oklahoma overloads this side of the field. All right, now look at how many people, and this is a good thing about LSU with the numbers, look at how many Oklahoma players they have to this side of the numbers. They have 4, okay? And we're clearly trying to take this football to this side. All right, it's just... And Aaron Anderson's football IQ is just ridiculous. We've already seen that in this game. He sees that there's all these people over here, so he's like, heck, I'm going to go to the left. All right. Then we have another Oklahoma player who's actually doing his job. We actually have a single digit in here, lots of walk-ons on this side. And look, he does a good job pressing right here, and we get a really good block. Who was this? Let's see. Who made this block? I got to know who this is. Okay. It's Toviano. It looks like it's JV and Toviano here. And you get a good block from Caleb Jackson here as well. Look at Caleb Jackson doing a good job sealing this. And ironic, Caleb Jackson should have had a kickoff return touchdown versus Grambling, but Sage Ryan tackled him. What a play. What a play right here by Caleb Jackson to help pin these 4 in. So now we only got to beat 7 over here. And I do think that this is Toviano. That looks like 25 right right here, okay, whoever it was, kudos to you because that was such a critical block. Then we get really good blocks up the middle. Isaiah was really good blocks. We get a miss from Trades Green right here, a little whiff. He did get a piece, but lucky enough, 43, who I think is a walk-on, steps up and makes a very big block on 12. All right, I think 43 was celebrating senior night. Now, Oklahoma kind of ran themselves out of the play. But take a look at this. Deshaun Spears, perfect block. I mean, has the dude in the phone booth. This is a DB doing this. All right, really good stuff. All right, not playing as many safety reps as he would have liked. Xavier Debo Atkins, remember, he was getting linebacker reps over Devon Keys. Keys now gets those reps. Debo gets a huge block and puts this guy into the Tiger Stadium turf. This is the second straight week he's made a big special teams play. Last week, Vanderbilt got a favorable spot on that fake punt. He was the one that actually ran it down, and that tackle should have been the game saver, essentially. And then he puts this guy into the underworld. Now, we get Jawan Johnson, another true freshman here to help out Aaron Anderson. And we also have, of course, all reliable Josh Williams. And I want you to see the torque Josh Williams gets on 13. Now, this isn't the receiver who caught the deep pass from earlier. Number one, Josh is outrunning him, all right? Number two, look at Jawan Johnson. You could tell he's gotten bigger. He's gotten thicker. You love to see it. Look at this block right here from Josh Williams. I mean, pound for pound, how many LSU football players are more powerful than Josh Williams? There's just not that many, right? And there's a few that come to mind, a few other number 18s. But how many plays have you seen Josh Williams put someone on their ass? And it doesn't look like he's about to do that, but he does that very thing. And then we get a good block right here from Jawan Johnson on the kicker, and Aaron Anderson is walking into the end zone 15 yards out. All right, we get lucky. Obviously, does Xavier return that one? I would like to think that he would have because the blocking was so good. That was more so great blocking, but good job by Aaron Anderson pressing that right side, seeing that there was nothing to the right, kickoff setup to the left, and you score. Good job also keeping the backup returner ready to go. And this was Aaron Anderson's, initial meaning to this team as a returner. Okay, now you'll get this angle on it as well. And man, let's see. It was Toviano, man. Holy crap, this was such a good block right here. It really, really, really was. Look at that. A little bit of a hold, sure, but they're going to let it go. Man, it really is that good. And 43, I think, what's his name? Edwards? Man, just excellent stuff across the way. Oklahoma tripping over themselves. And honestly, this was just bad for Brent Venables, all right? You mean to tell me that A.J. Swan is into the game? So you're down to the backup quarterback. You take a 4-point lead in Tiger Stadium, and then you let this happen, all right? Return touchdowns are so rare, but, with there being shorter kickoffs, you're going to get these, and it's a tutty. All right, 17-14 is your score. I got to give Oklahoma credit. I mean, they completed a very deep, difficult throw. I'm not going to show it to you, but this is how you play zone read football, okay? You just got to stay in your gaps. Notice right here on this zone read play, we don't have guys just flying into the backfield. You really just need to sit, right? Notice how we're just sitting everywhere. Every gap is filled, all right? And then we force it to bounce, and that's really, really, really good stuff right there from Ashton Stamps. And then Whit Weeks is there to clean it up, and this is physical, smash-mouth tackle football. Kevin Minter, who was at the game, I'm sure he enjoyed watching that, baby. Let's go. 2nd down and 11. JVR Suggs will be sorely missed. What a great one-year rental he's been. And against the run is where he's had issues. Looking to make this play, and it sets up 3rd and Ponchatoula. I don't know what Brent Venables was thinking. I really, really, really don't know. His press conference was also kind of bizarre. Why would, after giving up a deep kickoff return for a touchdown, why would you kick in the exact same portion of the field with only 2 minutes left to go in this first half? That makes not a lot of sense. All right, I didn't say that smoothly at all. They do a better job defending it, but take a look at this finish right here from Aaron Anderson. Spins off like what the Oklahoma returner did earlier, and he just stops and just carries all these players. Now, once again, Oklahoma, lots of backups out there, but look at this effort right here. Look at this. Keep pushing forward, baby. Love to see it. And my bad, I thought that was Xavier Debo-Atkins. No, that was Lane. All right, that was Lane, a walk-on running back that had the critical block a little bit earlier. That's my bad. All right, so Garrett back into the game, 2nd and 3. And, man, when I saw this, I thought we were cooked. I really did. No timeouts. I honestly thought we were handing this football off. I was sitting about right here, about a few rows up, and I was like, oh, God, the Bengals beat. But Garrett pulls at the last second. Oh, yes, good pull-out game. Antonio Cromartie could learn something from Garrett Nussmeier. Throws a football to Mason Taylor's upfield shoulder. And honestly, that could stop, we're in a lot of trouble. Okay? Now, we get to this play. And this was brought up on Twitter, and this has been brought up in our Discord as well. Why is it that we don't have the deep ball accuracy and the explosive pass game as a part of our offense? Well, let's first celebrate Chris Hilton, all right? I've been critical of Chris and obviously the mistiming of the jumps and all of that, but he makes a great play here. Now, the first thing is Garrett has taken, a lot of hits, right? And in particular, watch how labored of a throw this actually was. Remember, this is a guy fighting through a bunch of shoulder pain here. Take a look at this, all right? You could tell that this ball was kind of, he's laboring through that, and it helps when your pocket is really good. So we have a nice protection here. And once again, look at this. We have Mason Taylor going up against Mason Thomas. Now remember, this is the same guy that cooked Will Campbell earlier for a sack. And we're trusting to the field side where we're actually trying to throw this ball. And once again, we want the blind side to be better protected. Still, it's a difficult block. Man, that's ridiculous. It's just so good. And Garrett, labored and whatnot, still throws his football up to Chris Hilton. And I said the weakness of this Oklahoma defense is their corners. And Chris makes a really good catch. Now, I will say, you guys are going to absolutely destroy me. I don't think he needed to jump here. I really, really, really don't. But it doesn't matter. He made the play. Who cares? And it wasn't like as wild of a jump as, the A&M or the Florida play, and he makes just a phenomenal catch. Good stuff, Chris. So you guys tell me, did he need to jump here? All right. See, was Bowen the 5-star recruit? Good throw, good catch. Let's go. We get to this 3rd and 8. We're up by 7, and I like this adjustment that Baker's made this season where on these 3rd downs versus mobile quarterbacks, he did this versus Taylor Green of Arkansas. He has his linebackers play the edge rusher position because they have more speed. So in theory, they're going to be better contained guys that could chase down a really fast Jackson Arnold. Where the mistake actually happens here is when they did something like this versus Taylor Green, they had someone play center field, right? And what I mean by that is they had this rusher who was looping around, pause his rush, and then pick up the scraps, right? So you'll see that Braden Switzer is pulling around here, and I would prefer in this situation him pull and just stand right here and just pick up wherever Jackson Arnold's going to run, all right? Instead, we rush, and then we give up a rush lane right here. And Whit Weeks almost was able to make this play, but here's the thing. If Swinson was right here instead of just going full speed into this, he's getting a very valuable sack. Remember, he's at 8.5 sacks. He would have had an easy pickup sack right here, and that would have forced a punt into the game, potentially right there. Not in the game. That's dramatic, obviously. But, the thing is, it also would have slowed him down, even if he wouldn't have been able to make this play. And that's a good job by Parashan chasing it down from behind. Now, Brent Venables made a really good check. He said, look, we're not going to let Caden Durham, who Obviously, Caden almost picked Oklahoma. We won the recruiting battle. We're not going to let him beat us into the flats, and that's exactly what we're trying to do here. They have their best safety, Bowman, right there. Danny Stutzman unblocked on the blitz right through, and that's just good defense, good adjusting. So now we get to this third down, all right? And, well, what do? We get sexy. This is really, really, really good stuff from Kamarion Pimpton, all right? He saves it right here. Now, I love, first off, the design here. You could see that it looks like that we're not getting ready to snap this football, but we do. And you can see Oklahoma was not ready. They're on their heels for the snap. They're thinking that the motion is going to continue, and we've not really run this play. So quads left, quick screen right here to Durham, all right? I like this for a lot of reasons. If your shoulder is hurting, let's give him something very easy. We've also, had a strip sack. Don't want that to happen. And Kamarion Pimpton with the big block. All right, good job by Will and these guys releasing. Once again, it's Mason Taylor again blocking Danny Stutzman. So we saw him block Mason Thomas, their best defensive player. Stutzman's their second best defensive player. He blocks him all the way out. That's the third big block Mason Taylor has had in this game. That helps increase this space for Will Campbell to come in and make this block on Bowman, and we pick up the first down with a very easy completion. Okay, so this is a throw that Garrett, since A&M, where he threw a pick on something like this, he's had issues. Look, if you're playing this quick and the corner is this far off, you know that this corner is going to respect Mason Taylor, so there's no way that he's going to be able to get down here and pick this off. Quick little RPO. He sees the off coverage, and look at when he's deciding to throw. Look at how quick this entire motion is, right? It's not even a full step. He's not even stepping at all. He's just whipping it out there. Pretty good stuff on a bad shoulder, and hits Kyron right in the chest, and Kyron's going to make the first guy miss. I mean, that's just money every single time. And Ford does eventually make the tackle, but it's not until after an extra 5. All right, you want to see how important center play is? So we missed a deep shot to Aaron Anderson on a post for a touchdown versus Alabama because there was a guy right in Garrett's lap. This time, we were able to help DJ Chester out on this twist enough. This is a good job by Miles Frazier. Dominic Williams, okay, this is a guy who we lost in the portal to Oklahoma. This is how close he was to a game-changing play. All right? This is a game of inches. Good job by Miles. Good job by DJ Chester and Mabenga sitting heavy as they possibly can. Chester, of course, opens up his gate yet again. We don't want this to continue to happen, but we were able to slow him down just a little bit. This was almost a game decider. Dominic Williams would have been right in Garrett Nussmeier's lap right here, and this is an absolute bomb that Garrett is throwing. And maybe that ball gets deflected up in the air like those Ole Miss picks were, and it's going the other way. So that little piece right there from Miles Frazier was huge to allow Garrett to get this football to Chris, and Chris this time had to die for it. All right, he just did, and he makes a really ridiculously difficult catch on the cold Tiger Stadium ground. Chris, you shut me up, man. You did. You came out of here and balled out of control. 2 catches, 2 tutties, explosive plays. Let's go. All righty, so Sage Ryan makes a big play here. You guys know what happened on this play. It wasn't really anything that Sage did. We actually did not defend this all too well, but thanks to Braden Swinson, we were able to save the day. Now, Oklahoma had run some embarrassing trick plays. The design of this one is actually really creative. So if you're a defensive lineman, you're thinking that they're just cut blocking for a quick screen. This happens quite a bit. So you see all the defensive linemen are pursuing here to the right side, but these offensive linemen are actually doing this as a decoy. So they lay down onto the ground, and they're trying to run this in the direction of Braden Swinson. He stops and sees that this was a backward pass, and if he doesn't stop right here, this once again a game-saving player here from Braden Swinson. Let's just say he kept pursuing this way. This is sayonara, right? I mean, it's 5v1. Maybe Whit Weeks runs it down from behind. But look, it's it's there. Now, the thing that didn't really make a lot of sense to me is on these trick plays, I'm not the biggest fan of there only being one route or one choice for you to be able to make here, because they had shown this on tape. What you'll actually see here is this post would have been open, right? I mean, look, 81 is right here, and he's just running to go block Jordan Gilbert. Let's just say he just sticks his hand in the air. Maybe Sharp sees him, maybe he doesn't, and this ball is supposed to be thrown back to Arnold. And look, there's only two guys over here, all right? I probably still would have thrown this, or at least thrown it away or whatever, but instead, he's in a rough spot. We have Ashton Stamps right here. He makes his first play in a while, and that's a really good job by Stamps bringing down a very powerful player. And once again, Sharp just throws it straight to Sage Ryan, and he makes a catch, and there wasn't much of a return after this, but there you go. All right. Good job by Braden Switson. He was the one that made that whole play happen. And good discipline leads itself to good plays. Now, this is what we have been begging Garrett Nussmeier to do all season long. First thing, this has got to be fixed, this LSU offensive thing. I see poorly coached teams do this all the time, and I'm just going to say, all right, a lot of people would consider this being the worst NFL team. On Power Hour NFL, former Oklahoma quarterback Caleb Williams used to have to deal with this with Matt Eberflus. Now he's fired. We'll see if this changes. I hate offenses that run a lot of plays with less than 5 seconds on the play clock, right? The only reason that would make sense if you're a team like Vanderbilt, where you're really trying to shorten the game on purpose. It is a huge identity of who you are as a team. I don't think that that's necessarily our identity per se, but whatever the case may be, it makes life so much harder for an offensive line when you're doing that, okay? So we're rolling out to the left. I don't know exactly what we're actually running. Okay, so we're rolling out to the left. We're trying to run this little out right here to Mason Taylor. Not the biggest fan of this, right? I mean, I get what we're doing. It's a heavy blitz look. We checked into this more than likely. And look, they're not fooled by our rollouts, all right? I mean, this is a very highly trafficked throw, and there's a lot of pressure here, all right? So Garrett decides to go full Johnny Manziel here and cut it back, all right? And this is just ridiculous quarterback play from Garrett Nussmeier, and I don't understand what my guy on the backside here was doing, all right? Why are you doing this, okay? He just takes himself out of the play as a contained guy. If you're sitting right here, you're sacking the football. You're getting the football back. All right, so Garrett sees at 65, took the worst pursuit angle in the history of mankind. He runs a 5'9", 40-yard dash, and Garrett's able to turn the corner. And 10 had the big pick six versus Auburn. He makes an amazing tackle right here from Garrett, but that's a first down, right? LSU gets a bad spot, and I want you to see this, all right? Remember, we talked about our sideline being a little dead from time to time. Notice how many people are pointing out that this is a first down. Even Brian Kelly thinks it's a first down. We have a really good angle of it, but this is what, and I was, once again, a few rows back from this. This is what was interesting. We ended up thinking about challenging it. I'm shocked that the replay booth didn't decide to challenge his spot. It was a bad spot. It looked like he got the first down. So I remember seeing this. I was trying to get a video of it. They asked Brian Kelly, hey, if you want the spot to be challenged, you would need to call a timeout. All right? He didn't call the timeout to challenge the spot that he felt 100% certain that LSU got. But we were still able to go for it on fourth down. We were able to pick it up with Josh Williams. But I was a little shocked that LSU didn't decide to burn the timeout. The problem is, when we decided to go for it on fourth down, we brought in our heavy personnel, and on the very next play, the play clock was running out, and we had to burn a timeout anyway. So I probably would have burned the timeout to challenge the play. You would have gotten your timeout back. And let's just say you get stopped on 4th and 1. Oklahoma's back into the game. But whatever the case may be, I also can hear the other side of the argument as well, that a second-half timeout is too valuable on something as trivial as a spot challenge, right? Spots are really hard to overturn. They are. Either way, we move on. Good play design. Pipton had been blocking his ass off all day. So you fake the screen to our best player, Aaron Anderson, on the decoy. And I love the layers to this play. So let's just say that Bowman right here sniffs this out with Kamarion Pimpton quicker, and that's covered. Guess what? We have another check down to it as well. Good play design from Joe Sloan. Would have loved to have seen more of this season, okay? Where we're scheming things wide open. You've heard me talk about this on our live stream throughout the season, and there you go. Kamarion Pimpton makes a guy miss as well. I would have loved to have seen him score this, and he almost does. Really good ball security as well, and Pimpton put together his best game as an LSU Tiger. Here we go. It's 3rd and New Roads, and look at this call. We ran this, obviously, versus Arkansas. Blitz, 2 fast linebackers, have them become the new contained guys, and just crunch everything in the middle, okay? We just want people to crunch this middle. That's exactly what we do. There's nowhere for Arnold to run through, and guess what? Devon Keys gets a nice cleanup sack. Good stuff. Interesting group. Dylan Carpenter, year 2 player, or is he year 1? Either way. Jackson Arnold, is there anything open over here? I mean, honestly, no. Once again, this is the worst group of wide receivers I've ever seen in the SEC. Once again, because their top 5 guys are literally hurt. Once again, I've never seen anything like that in my life. So we're clamping everything down here. I would guess this vertical would have been guarded right here by what looks to be Major Burns or Sage Ryan. I'm probably just throwing it up just to see if they can make a play. And honestly, this is a QB draw all the way. So it looks like a QB draw all the way. Yeah, it is. And Arnold just kind of runs into a sack. McKinley does a good job. I mean, look at this from Dominic McKinley. Just pile driving this guard so bad that it actually slowed down this running back trying to run through here. Good job by Dylan Carpenter turning the edge right there. Okay, we'll take that. And it's a sack. Once again, I understand this is what Sloan wants to base his offense out of, and I'm a big outside zone proponent. But every time you get in pistol, you can't just run outside zone. We did it to the left in the first half, and then we do it again here. They're just teeing off on it. The funny thing is, we actually blocked this to the right well. We just don't get the backside correct. Mabenga gives up a lot of pressure right here, and that cuts off Will's block right here. And then Mason Taylor, once again, just doing the damn thing. Look at that block for Mason. Goodness gracious. I mean, this was just Mozart-level blocking. All right, 70-50. You see a good job right here by the right side of our offensive line. But because Will got cut off on the backside, it was a tough block for him to make. But look, Danny Stutzman's right here to make this play. Rough night for Danny overall. He misses that tackle, and somehow Caden was able to squirt through there. Crazy stuff. All right, let's move ahead here. All right. Sage Ryan has a chance for a career night. All right, you remember the Kamarion Pimpton play from earlier? That's essentially what they're doing, okay? Fake the flat, and this is where you're supposed to go with the football. Arnold just holds on to this so damn long. I mean, this could have been ripped. Good job by Relaford turning this edge. Almost got himself a sack. And because he waited so long, Sage Ryan is right here to make a play. And, well, there you go. And I didn't understand not, like, running a pass here. Even the chain gain is kind of like, what the hell are they doing? And they just run the football here to end this game. Okay? So let's have an honest conversation about this performance from LSU. And once again, I was kind of shocked that 20 was able to turn the corner here, but still a good touchdown.
What else would you like me to give you? I mean, there's 7 players with 1 year experience on defense that just beat the pants off of Oklahoma. That's pretty good. And they beat a really good Vanderbilt team the week before. So, you know, they're 5-3. We played a lot of young players this year. And so, you know, when you take the body of work, you know, we had 3 games that we had the lead late in the third quarter, or we'd be talking about are we going to host?
All All righty, some bold comments from Brian Kelly. My goodness gracious. I love it. But I also don't like it. I'll tell you why in a second. But I first want to shout out all the lovely people who hung out with PHL yesterday. It was a great time. We didn't have like any kind of meetup. It was just kind of a flow state. Shout out to the Revelry, and they pulled out the red carpet for your boy. That is a fun bar in Baton Rouge, also in Ruston as well. But man, phenomenal stuff. Now, as we always do at the end of every live film study, we break it all down. Now, part of the reason why I wanted to go to this game was because of where I sat. And where I sat is actually my least favorite place to watch a football game, which is on the field. All right. So I was like roughly 5 rows from the film. And part of it was I wanted to see how the team interacted. Right. Also, part of it was a very nice viewer hooked me up with some tickets. But look, it was crazy. That I felt that the vibes on the team were pretty good. Like, and it helps when you're winning and all of that. But for the most part, it seemed like LSU was locked in. There were a few players that seemed a little bit away from others. But whatever the case may be, LSU in mostly good spirits. But it is hard, and it's crazy to me. And this is just a personal thing before we start talking about the actual players here. It is so hard to evaluate a football game when you are low, okay? Now, imagine if you are boots on the ground. And I do miss shooting games from the sideline. I've done that before. Did it for the Jeremy Hill come out versus South Carolina, where Josh Jurasic shut down Jadeveon Clowney. Whatever the case may be, it was it's tough. It's really tough. The game flies by. And, I wanted to share that because when you are, criticizing a coach over timeout or game management and all that stuff, it's really hard to keep up with all those things when we are sitting here and at all times we have a ticker at the bottom with the score, the time, the play clock. Coaches just don't have that. That's why I'm such a big believer in someone other than the head coach actually managing the game. But we'll get more into Brian Kelly, but what a fun atmosphere it was in Tiger Stadium. Crowd was absolutely amazing, as it was for the Vanderbilt game. And that shows you LSU fans are definitely some of the best fans in all of college football because, well, we're literally not playing for anything here over the last 2 weeks. And we're a program built on a national championship reputation in the modern era. So really, really, really good crowd. There were some empty splotches mixed in there, but still. Now, there was so much made about the uniform controversy. Look, I'm going to save my opinion for that because I don't want to, cause a stir. This uniform combo is sick. I would have liked to have ended the season with the gold helmet, white top, gold bottoms, but that's what the players wanted. We're not going to get into a big debate over this because, I just don't like spending too much time on it. But you notice that my only point about this is if you win, no one makes a big deal about it. All right, if you would have lost, it would have been like, it was bad, mumbo-jumbo, juju, doing alternates in back-to-back games. But it is weird playing a season where you play 3 different Power 5 teams in non-white white jersey, gold top, gold bottom combos, right, our traditions. But whatever the case may be, so cool seeing Patrick Peterson, Minter. There are so many legends there. It's so much fun. So much fun. Okay. Now, let's talk about the game. Let's start with the defensive side of the football. Was this a good game from the LSU defense? Sure. Look, I don't think it's close. Oklahoma's offense is by far the worst in the SEC. So you see 2 conference wins for Oklahoma. Both of their conference wins were the byproduct of pick sixes, right? The only reason they went on the road and beat Auburn was because they got a pick six in that game that gave them the lead. And then, of course, Jalen Milroe threw the game away, and there were a lot of bad calls against Alabama, but you won't hear me cry too much. It was still an ugly loss, 24-3, and Oklahoma deserves credit. But I actually sat by quite a few Oklahoma fans, and they were going for the experience, and they knew that this was going to be a tough proposition. And you saw it tonight. I mean, Arnold is a runner, and we did a good job overall containing him, but he still was able to get off some explosive runs. And I'll also be honest, I do think there's a piece of Oklahoma, once they won that 6th game versus Alabama and locked in the bowl game, this staff already started punting towards next season because the early signing period is around the corner. I do think there was some of that because it was inexcusable, some of the things that they did in this game. In particular, not having Arnold pull it more, right? Our zone read defense was bad. We still really couldn't defend it. We defended it well some, but the fact that they didn't do more of that early was perplexing to me. But whatever the case may be, this Oklahoma offense is so bad. I mean, it is so bad. And I could put it up there with some of the worst offenses ever, especially if you temper it to expectations, right? It's one thing if, like, a Vanderbilt has a bad offense or Mississippi State or someone like that. But this is Oklahoma. Multiple Heisman winners, no shortage of all-time great running backs, receivers, and all of that. And it is a disaster with all the injuries they've had at receiver. So understand that our great defensive outputs over the last couple of weeks is a little subjective, if you ask me. I would say that the defensive performances have been fine, right? You do calibrate it for the home field advantage, right? It's a lot easier to have an elite defensive game when you're at home compared to on the road. But let's go to the handy-dandy stat. It's not a one-size-fit-all stat, but we do like to look at the stat comparison, and the first thing that we look for is the yard per play numbers. Before you start coming after me for the defense, Oklahoma in this game averaged 4.7 yards per play. All right, and that is a very good defensive outing. It really is. So anytime you hold an opponent to 4.7 yards per play, that's a good thing, right? Well, yes and no. Oklahoma was by far the worst SEC defense or offense when it comes to yards per play. They averaged 4.17 yards per play offensively. 4.17. Yes, and they put up 4.7 against us. That's a pretty big leap. Now, we did open up a big lead, and that did loosen some things up, but they were able to get off some explosive runs from the QB run game. So, imagine if they had an actual, they had that one receiver with the pulse. They burned Major Burns. But, there were some good defensive performances. It was good seeing Dominic McKinley, get in those 2 sacks and all that good stuff. But if you go position by position, obviously the LSU secondary was never going to be challenged in this game at corner because they don't have receivers, right? We brought up the jersey number in the 80s thing. That is a very real thing. Okay, that means there's a lot of walk-ons you're going on at you're facing at wide receiver. And, their tight end has been shut down in consecutive weeks by this LSU defense. So LSU DBs, fine performance. LSU's linebackers, once again, kind of an up-and-down game. I thought Witt overall was fine. Devon Keys did some really good things. PFF kind of disagreed, even though Keys had double-digit tackles. And I could kind of see that. And then, of course, Greg Penn, up-and-down game as well. Obviously, he was, the main culprit for that big Jackson Arnold run that led to the touchdown. And then the defensive line, obviously Swinson and those guys continue to have a fantastic season. Lots of good defensive tackle play. Gio Paez and those guys, really good stuff. But I'm not going to spend too much time on this defense because this is what they should have done. I mean, this was by far the worst SEC offense, and it's not close this year, which is crazy to think about when it comes to Oklahoma. Now, we go to the other side of the football. Now that we know what the Rickie Collins situation, that's why they went to A.J. Swan. It's kind of been lingering in the background. I was going to wait till it actually became official, but whatever. let's start with the LSU offensive line, and we do this every week on our film studies. We take a look at DJ Chester's grade, all right? So this season, he has played, of course, 11 games. He's been a warrior out there in terms of not being hurt and basically playing every single snap. And up to this point in the season, PFF has not given him what many would consider to be a replacement level grade. All right. Now, once again, you don't have to be a diehard PFF supporter, right? I have been very vocal against some of the grades that they give. In fact, some of their own people are against some of the grades that they give. But overall, it is signal, right? It's sticky. They do put effort into grading guys. So it's not the be-all, end-all. Okay, I understand that. It's not. But it is something that for every game this season, DJ Chester did not have a replacement level grade. Okay, he had a few 60-ish grades, but this was yet again another game where the grading did not put him in a good light. and well, the strip sack was on him. And it's on Nuss as well. We'll talk about Nuss in a second. But LSU simply cannot run it back with him at center. And the thing that also kind of shocked me was why not at least try someone in these last couple of games new at center just to see if you might have a hidden gem on the roster. That it just doesn't make any sense that you're not even. I mean, that's what Orgeron did. He kept running Liam Shanahan out there. But outside of that, the other offensive linemen, obviously Will Campbell had that one mistake, but he was really good. Emory Jones was so good in this game, in my estimation. And Miles Frazier, obviously, and then Mabenga is getting better and better. So do you want Paul Mabenga to be your starting left guard next season? Comment down below. I want to celebrate Mason Taylor like we do every film study. This was the best blocking game I've ever seen from an LSU tight end. I mean, every single big play that we had, it seemed like he had a big block. And it's to the point now where it's not even worth, like, he's one of our better receivers as well. He provides us so much as a blocker that I sometimes wonder, do we even want to have him go out for a pass, right? That's how good his blocking was. Caden's big run, a couple of the big throws that we had were all Mason Taylor blocks. And what makes it even more impressive was it was against Mason Thomas, right? The guy that's stripping the strip sack here, and against Danny Stutzman. I mean, these are NFL-level players. So he was that good. Obviously, the superstar of this game was Chris Hilton. You go to Patreon right now, you can get our full Patreon grades. I understand it was only 2 catches, but on 2 targets, you get 2 deep touchdowns. The simple truth is this. You can be a sputtery offense, all right? You can have poor play design. We'll talk about Sloan in a minute as well. But the great equalizer is the explosive play battle. And LSU tonight had plays, 42, 45, 45, and the 50-yard Caden Durham run. All right, and 2 of those were Chris Hilton plays. And Brian Kelly mentioned in the post-game press conference the explosive plays that Chris Hilton can provide your offense. So I give Chris a lot of credit. I also give Kamarion Pimpton a lot of credit. Chris and KP, these last couple of games for PFF, were some of the lowest graded players on the entire roster that played snaps. And for them to be arguably 2 of our better players was really impressive, even though, you do factor in the competition. But look, this Oklahoma defense is pretty solid. But yeah, so much of the next couple of weeks is going to be about who's going to do what. Obviously Josh Williams is going to be gone. Caden Durham is going to be, such a hyped up running back with real legitimate production going into next season. But who's that next running back going to be? We'll see what happens there. Now, we get to coaching. Let's start with Garrett. Another great Garrett Nussmeier game. Y'all, this will sound like hyperbole in the background while I'm recording this. The Saints lose again. Anyway, this will sound like hyperbole, but Garrett Nussmeier is asked to do so much in this LSU offense. All right, and we had some things schemed up. That's why I really showed a lot of love to that Kamarion Pimpton play, right? That was one where Garrett just had a wide open guy to throw to. But rarely is he giving those kinds of things, right? A lot of the things that he has to do in this offense are him having to throw the football into tight windows, making really tough reads, scanning the field, all while having a center in his lap a lot of the times is really, really freaking hard to deal with as a starting quarterback. Now, once again, the strip fumble, I'm sick of the turnovers. He didn't have any other turnovers on the night. And once again, if he has a slightly better center, right, he might not ever be getting stripped in that spot. And a lot of the turnovers that he's had up to this point in the season could be traced back to DJ Chester, if we're being fair. But that is just a big part, a big negative, and it was huge in this game. It was, but thankfully Oklahoma's offense is so bad that they did not make us pay for it really at all. But the truth is, toughness-wise, it was such a good representative of Garrett's moxie and toughness to get back out there on the field and fight through it. Now, will he be back next season as LSU starting quarterback is an even more interesting question. At this point, I would like to think that he will be. So, and I would like to see it. I would, but man, there's still a lot to work on. A freaking lot, okay? And the fact that he held on to this football after getting his shoulder slammed into the ground is even more impressive because this ball's loose. And once again, if you're playing, you always want to fall on the football. And it was actually Thomas's own leg that kicked the. Trust me, fumble luck matters. And good job by DJ Chester getting on that. Now, obviously, Blake Baker and this defensive staff is going to be back next season, and rightfully so. You have to run it back. You can't just make drastic defensive changes and just abandon it. So we'll see if there's any minor tweaks there. But I don't think Joe Sloan will be back next season. I just don't. And I understand Brian Kelly probably don't want to fire another coordinator, but I just don't see it happening. And I think there's a world where there's a change there and all the other LSU coaches are safe. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Joe Sloan's play calling in this game was better. It was. But, just his game flow. Oklahoma's just not a good team, y'all. I mean, it's just that freaking simple. In many ways, they were lucky to be Tulane very, very, very early in the season. I don't know if that result would hold up now if those two were to play. Okay. Now we get to Brian Kelly. Talked a really big game at the end of this press conference. And look, he was bold. I mean, that was really bold to say, hey, receipts, national championship, all of that. What I would say, though, and look, I don't mind boldness. That gets players fired up and all that good stuff. I hope the result of these two home games versus the two worst teams on our schedule. All right, these were the two worst SEC teams that we played, and you factor in that these games were at home, and you factor in that these are middle-of-the-road teams that already had bowl eligibility locked in. I would just look at these results as relatively flawed, right? Both of these offenses had over their average yard per play numbers. We had breaks go our way in both of these games. I'm not going to sit here and say that we just came out and just blew the brakes off Oklahoma. Now, the final score indicated that, but I don't know if I could just reasonably say that up to this point after doing this film study. But, I don't want these two results to have our coaching staff think, hey, maybe we should run it back with a lot of these guys who may not be that good of football players. And I hope this doesn't deter us from really going to get some difference makers from the portal. So that's why I'm concerned over Brian Kelly's bold comments. But I would like to think that they will look at this game. And look, that was the post-game press conference. Brian Kelly just gave his team an impassioned speech. So there's still adrenaline running. And I like it when a coach talks like that. If I'm a player, I'm like, okay, BK, you want to go make a run at this? Let's go. But once the dust settles, where can this team go? We'll see what happens there. We will. Okay? So, I think this is going to happen. I really, really, really do think it's going to happen. If you're watching this on a premiere, please drop a donation, Venmo, Cash App, all that good stuff, Super Chat. It goes a long freaking way. All right. Now, shout out every single one of you that said hi this weekend. That's all good stuff. Can LSU really make a run at the college football playoff next year? I do want to, if you're just now joining us, I would highly recommend you go check out, the kickoff return comments that I made earlier on Oklahoma's big return in this game. And it wasn't a big return, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it. Let's just say the schedule is flipped next year. Well, Clemson, we know, is going to be solid. That's going to be a tough road game. And let's just say you have to go to Vanderbilt and to Oklahoma later in the season. You might have some cold weather, snowy, kind of weird games. And then you factor in, Alabama, Ole Miss, all those guys. Man, I would say that the schedule next year, I feel, is going to be harder than this schedule. And that's why, I was banging the table saying, man, there are some things that really set up nicely for us this season. They really do. But whatever the case may be, we should be fine, okay? And right there, I don't understand. Are they going to call this, is this a penalty or is it not a penalty, them landing on players, okay? That's a 300-pounder, launching off of somebody. That should be 15 yards and we get to keep the ball, but they don't call it, right? I mean, we got away with one versus Alabama. But still, I don't know. Let me know if you guys think if we're a college football playoff team next year, okay? And obviously these last 2 weeks probably makes a lot of us feel better about Brian Kelly moving forward. And, I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen in this portal and, which all signatures come during the signing period. So let me know what you guys think and hit me up. I'm in Baton Rouge for another day. The 225. Let's freaking go. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. And tonight we are doing. Oh, are we gonna go get Pluckers? Where should I go tonight? You guys let me know. Let's freaking go.